now is the time to start for Eliška. So Eliška is an ecological activist, let's say. She's very interested in very cool topic, which is eco-village, which is kind of sustainable village. I don't know much about it, so I hope Eliška will explain everything what I need to move in the next week to some eco-village among Europe. And I think we should start. There is not much time, so I will not talk longer. And welcome Eliška Šestáková, who will take you to eco-villages in Europe at least. Eliška?
Hello, Vata. Thank you for your kind welcome, and also to Rise and Shine for inviting me here for this event. I am actually right now sitting in Italy, but last year till the beginning of this year, I lived in Germany in some German eco-villages, and that I was asked to talk about here. So let's move to my presentation, which I just named "What is life like in an eco-village?" Because I got some questions about it. At the beginning, how I got to that topic or to that place, I was very lucky 2 years ago to get some funding from Deutsche Bundesstiftung Umwelt, which is one of the biggest environmental foundation in Europe. And they supported my project to do some research in German eco-villages. And I also connected with the Global Eco-Village Network, which is an international network connecting international communities and eco-villages, and they have their own branches in Europe and in Asia, in Africa, and then of course, like on national level, there is a Global Eco-Village Network in Germany, in Spain, and France, etc. Other networks. So I connect with the Global Eco-Village Network in Germany, and then that's how I, in very short introduction, got to the topic of eco-villages. So very quickly, what is it, an eco-village? It's a very broad topic, but it doesn't mean that you just move to like some rural place and you cut from all the technological inventions what the society have. That doesn't mean that. But as you already said, Vojta, it's something where the people try to live more ecologically and environmentally friendly. But it also means not just in the ecological part towards the nature, towards the trees and plants and water and soil, but also towards other people living within such a community or also outside the community, so also on the social level. And also within those people, on the cultural level, they are respecting differences between the different cultures, so they are usually also very international. They have a different type of people, maybe even different religion or different way of celebrating events. And also they try to be sustainable on the economical part of the living. So they create jobs or financial options to produce money for themselves or to be just financially sustainable. So eco-villages are very broad topic, and they are like all the time constantly evolving. So I already wouldn't know the eco-village where I lived last year because many new people come or some left, and it's all the time evolving. So it's very hard to like describe one eco-village because it's all the time changing. And it also doesn't mean that it has to be in a rural place. It can also be like in urban settlement, which can have different structures or different buildings, or maybe they don't produce so much of their own food, but on the other hand, they have better opportunities for the financial options, like to have a better job involvement and better technological solution. So let's have a look how it's Europe doing on the topic of eco-villages. So of course, there are many eco-villages, thousands and thousands of eco-villages all over the world. And this global eco-village network is connecting them somehow on some level. But there are also many eco-villages or communities who doesn't wish to be connected. And actually, they just value their privacy. So they wouldn't share their position, or maybe they are not inviting people so much to come there. So they wouldn't possibly they would probably not be on their on this map of the global eco-village network, for example. And if we zoom a little bit closer to see the situation in Germany and Czech Republic, we can see that there are quite some eco-villages in Germany and quite none in the Czech Republic, which is true. So that's why I decided to also go to Germany to discover this topic and to bring potentially the experience back to Czech Republic and, let's say, improve the networking and improve the knowledge of the people who would potentially don't have an option like me to go to live to some eco-village. So that also were also the goals of that project, which I did. And if we just zoom exactly on Germany, we can see the German eco-villages which are involved in the global eco-village network. And these two on the right, which are named, are those two where I lived last year in eco-village Okodorf, Sieben Linden in the north of Germany. I lived last year 7 months, and in the eco-village Okodorf Nature Community, very close to Czech Republic border in Bayern, I lived 4 months last winter. And yeah, the very important point of this slide is also that those communities actually, even in the industrialized country such as Germany, they are one of those communities which have the lowest emissions per person living in such a place. So let's have a look on the Sieben Linden eco-village. It's over 20 years old and there live over 150 people. Some of them, of course, are children. Some of them are, of course, retired and older people, but it's very variable. And their main topics on which they focus is organizing educational events like for workshops, seminars, conferences, and they invite 100 people per year for many variable events. And then they focus a lot on ecological buildings, which we will see a little bit later in my presentation. And they produce sustainable. They have their own production of the food. So they produce about 60% of their own food, which they focus on cooking vegetarian and vegan and organic. And the other stuff they, of course, buy all together, and they are choosing, again, organic and fair trade products if they can, or also from the region, not far away if it's possible. And then they have also like their own forest kindergarten and some other sustainable businesses. How it looked from the top. At the beginning, there was just field and forest when that came, so it's a very rural place. And now it's about 80 hectares, of which they have 8 hectares like buildings, which are about 12 big houses and about 50 little trailers on wheels, which they can move in need. So that's how they started. They actually started with caravans and structures like this to live in it. And then the rest, like 20 hectares of fields, and for 35 it's forest. And the main important point is that all of this, all the lands and the buildings are owned by the cooperative in which all the people who live there permanently are members of. So everything is owned together. Some of the buildings, as I already mentioned, they are focusing on ecological buildings. So they use straw bales for insulating wood and clay. And they say, according to their knowledge, that they have the largest density of various straw houses in the world. And they try to be as low or passive energy to have those buildings. So they use lots of solar panels. They use wood for heating and the earth or ground energy. So the self-sufficiency of those buildings is 70 to 100%. And they also sometimes use some funding, like subsidy from, for example, European Union now. As I mentioned, they have many trailers on the wheels like this, so they can even have like very nice gardens, so they can be with 2 floors, and they always really try to respect the nature around themselves and also other people. Here we can see some of the outside structures, like the main meeting point or the outside oven. They also have some yurts. And the building here with the solar panels is the main building, the community building. I have to drink too much talking.
Take a drink, and we can slowly finish the presentation and take the questions after.
Oh, just more to show the pictures of some buildings and how it looks inside. Oh, I mentioned the culture, so it's also about celebrating together, like weddings, or also here when people were leaving, or of course when somebody dies. That's also very connected together when living in the community. And just very quickly about the second eco-village, which is on the other hand very young. It's just 5 years old, and there live about 50 people. And they also focus on sustainable life, and they are fully vegan. This is very close to a town, so it's not that very rural place. And they have like 3 big buildings and several little structures like bungalows, where they have also like some workshops and chapel. And it's actually a former hotel. So they are trying to move those buildings to being more sustainable. And this is the production of the food. So as I mentioned, they are the first eco-village. They are very self-sustainable with using all the technical instruments which they need. Oh, this is quite long to explain, but if somebody is interested, they will find out what does it mean. So how decisions in eco-villages are made. They are often using sociocracy, which is a very nice option. So I recommend to people to find out more about sociocracy. Just more pictures from the gardens. Permaculture, of course, is used, and some of the food always is seasonal according to what they harvest from the garden. And as I mentioned, they focus usually on being vegetarian or vegan in the way to be more sustainably friendly. And there is some storage of the food. So the storage is all common to have all together. And just quickly to explain that they don't use toilets to flush with water. They use dry toilets, and also they are cleaning the water. They used only biodegradable cosmetic, so then the water again can be used in the circle again on the garden to water. And I already mentioned the ecological footprint in eco-villages is much lower. So there was some scientific research on the eco-village Sieben Linden, which showed that they have 27 of the German average person in the Sieben Linden, according to that research. If we don't think about topics like military or roads, which are like for everybody paid from the taxes. And one of the last topics is why eco-villages, why to have them? I think one of the good questions is that we are already using now so many resources. So in the eco-villages is the way how to do it, how to use less with more people together. So then the financial needs are also lower. So for that, to find out for everybody their own footprint, I recommend to Google any footprint calculator and find out. So the eco-villages are actually very nice models of which aspects can be used in our lives to improve, or on the other hand, lower our footprint. That's about it. My presentation is at the end. So just like some little picture from the community, that they are really like from kids to older retired people. And what is needed in an eco-village, I would definitely say, is an open mind and being open to personal growth, personal development. So then we are back at the rise and shine to be able to grow and like live with a big community. That's all very connected. So thank you for your time, and that I would expect any questions which you have to me, Vojta.
Thank you very much. Very interesting topic and a very nice presentation with a lot of numbers, but still quite easy to read and easy to hear. So we have 3 questions in the chat. Pavel is asking if the eco-village could be similar to kibbutz in Israel. Do you know?
Yes, I know. Hi, Pavel. Thank you for the question. I actually met a person who was thinking about moving to Sieben Linden, and before he lived for, I don't know how long, maybe years, in some kibbutz in Israel. So he actually started living in Germany, found a German lady, and they were thinking about moving there. So what would be similar, like same? I think in kibbutzes, they are much more sharing all the finances. So the eco-villages in Europe, it depends how much they share all the funds together. In Sieben Linden, they share like the amount for the land and the buildings, but the private job, if you have your own, that's your own financing. You don't share all your funds, which I think is one of the biggest difference with the kibbutz in Israel. I'm not sure if I answered that question, but I hope that's towards my knowledge, but I wasn't in Israel or any kibbutz.
It's nice because I think you can talk more like for another 3 hours, but we don't have so much time. So I think it's enough. There is a question from Zuzana, and that was also my question. If I want to go to Eco-Village right now, next week, to try it, what I have to do? Do I have to register somewhere, or how I find even the Eco-Village around me, or how can I do it?
For the beginning, I would say it would not be the best timing now to go for Christmas, because it's more like a family time. So also in the eco-villages, it's more like community. They also like value the privacy. So like any time in the year, of course, it's very good to announce them in advance that you're coming. If you're interested in some event or just to look around, you can come. It depends. Many eco-villages have like more public space and some private space. Usually they have it well described. There's like little notice, like, please, this is private area, don't enter here unless you are invited. So registering, like every eco-village have their own website. So there I would find for more information to just contact them that you are planning to come. Eco-villages usually have some information desk or information email where you can exactly like this ask. And to start, it would be GEN Global Eco-Village Network website, where you can search per country, per places which are in that network. There are other networks.
Okay, I think we can find and share this link in the comment section, Pavel, if you can. And there is the third question: how difficult, in your opinion, would it be to found an eco-village in Czech?
To find, or to
establish, like to start.
To establish. Actually, there is very new eco-village being established right now, the last couple months, because last year, or actually 2-3 years ago, there was a community in Czech being built by a group of people, very activist people around Prague, but all over Czech or even South Slovak. And we are in contact for some time. We are sharing information or even some knowledge and networking, which is very productive. And actually, they were looking for place last year, and they found a place close to Karlovy Vary in a former village, which was after the war, like the German population was forced to leave, so that village was like disappeared. So now that's a new community, which is called Zaměřuje, which is zaměřuje.cz website. They founded an eco-village, let's say, but it's definitely lots of time, lots of talking, many meetings, lots of paperwork as well, because the legal framework is very important. So, and definitely you need like group of people who are really into giving the time and see like the vision very similarly. So it's not anything easy, and it cannot be done by one person. You always need a group of 3 people, a community. So that would be place to start and have a look on Zaměřuje. I think they are on a very good way, but like still lots of work to do. So it's still at the beginning. They just bought the place. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer, and hopefully it will be possible, as you are saying, and it will be not so hard to find such a nice system to live together. Maybe there will be some new law, and maybe when there will be more people trying, maybe the people will hear and understand like what is needed to do to make it more simple.
We have many people in Czech Republic who are very into this idea, and we have many people who love nature or who are gardening and producing their own food. So definitely Czech Republic have lots of potential, I think, and it's a good way.
Okay, we have another question from Jana. Are there some other profitable activities that people do in the village for taking care of themselves to survive, or how they survive? So do they have a job and they work for the village, or is it different for each other?
It's very different for every person, can be very variable. There can be people who are already retired, obviously, or some mothers on mother leave, so they don't need like private, like their own jobs. There can be people who are employed within the eco-village, that's right, like a cook or gardener or the carpenter who is building the house. They are paid by the cooperative, by the eco-village, but also they need something from outside, exactly, to get profit from outside. So many of those events like conferences and workshops are paid, of course, so that when guests come, they pay some for housing and food, and also for the program. They are organizing lots of like daily events like yoga, or they have the kindergarten or schools. So even people or families from outside are bringing their kids to be in that forest garden or democratic schools. They usually they often have some alternative way of education for the kids, or they organize lots of art events, or it's very variable. There can be an entrepreneur, maybe an architect who has his own atelier in the eco-village, but of course to go and see the place, he needs to go away and then see the place, and then of course back in the eco-village design the house. Or it can be a carpenter who is also working sometimes in the eco-village, but takes some projects outside. So maybe he goes for 2 weeks out of the eco-village, work, get some money, and go back, and then it's again two weeks back in the eco-village. Or there can be a lady who is taking care about older people, and she's going every day in the region and visiting retired older people who need maybe some social help, some medical help. She's like a nurse to go inside the houses of the people in the villages, in the vicinity of the eco-village. So it's very variable. The financial options are very broad, but a nice starting point for German eco-villagers, I would say, is that Germany have its own federal national volunteer program, that you can be officially volunteer of the Germany, and then you can join a non-profit organization, which can be, for example, the eco-village cooperative, and you can work with them, for example, organize the conferences and be there for the guests, or help in the kitchen or in the garden or in the kindergarten, and be paid officially by the German government as an official volunteer, have a status as a national volunteer, and then like you have the basic needs covered. And that's for, I think, 1 year or 1.5 year maximum. So that's a good start point for those people who newly move in and maybe they don't know yet the place and cannot like immediately establish, of course, like a job. So this is good starting point for new eco-villagers in Germany. Yeah.
So my additional question would be: do you think it's possible to have an I don't know, some ordinary work, like I don't know, work full of technology and at the same time live in the eco village, like to travel?
In the time of internet, of course, we are very lucky to have internet. So definitely many remote jobs are possible. Online, or if you have in the vicinity, there are people, of course, coming to the towns when they need, maybe not every day, but many times per week or month they go. But to go every day, then you have to consider your own footprint for your car, or of course there are sharing cars, so that's much better than every person privately use his own car to go every day anyway. So it's very variable. Yeah. But also it's possible like to be leaving every day, because when people move in, they cannot like immediately cut their current job. Maybe it takes some time, or there are students going to school as well, so to university or high school students. So they are also commuting every day. So yes, it's possible. It just very depends on the place, on the location, how you manage to be creative with it. Yeah.
Okay. And we are going slowly to the finish, so I don't see more questions. I see only that Marketa is saying hi. I don't know if you know which Marketa.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Marketa.
Maybe Marketa could have some question. I have one more question. How did you find this, and why you are so active in this topic?
I was thinking about this question. I think it was growing slowly in my mind, this idea, because I studied, pardon, I studied garden and landscape planning as my university study. And for my Erasmus, I went to study for 1 year to Vienna in Austria. So there I got more into the international information field around the landscape and like sustainable topics. And also for my master thesis, I choose to do a community garden project. So I think around this time, I had to get to know that there are some eco villages, and also in Germany that they are quite many, and they are quite sustainable and successful. So that's, I think, how I got to the knowledge that I would like to find out more about this topic, and that's how I got to it, I think.
Okay. Any more questions from others? We have time for last question.
1 more minute.
1 more minute. 60 seconds. 59, 58. Or Eliška, you can say, okay, let's give you last 40 seconds. You can say whatever you want, and then we will finish and make a short break.
Yeah, then I would like to mention that there are other networks which can be close to the topic of eco-villages or intentional communities who try to be more sustainable or connecting, even like eco farms, which can be, for example, found on Woofing, which is World of Organic Farming, where you can find, or Permaculture Association, or the Gaia University, or Transit, which is more about communities, also urban communities, or Ecolis, that's European network for community-led initiatives. So what I mentioned is just like very tiny part of the broad spectrum. It's many topics and initiatives who are touching to this topic. So it's like just very easy, or like to get lost in so many information, or so but the global eco-village network, I would say, is like a good starting point, and they connect to many of these which I mentioned and many others. And in other countries, they have more Camp Hill, Colibris, Camp Hill more in the United Kingdom, Colibris more as well, or in France, and etc. Yeah, so many more networks where are possible to find communities like this. Yeah.
Okay, Pavel told me we have some 3-4 more minutes because we have then a short surprise, short video, which is too short to fill all the break. So let's use it. There is another question from Jana. Do you plan to live there again in the future, in the eco-village?
In the concrete German eco-villages where I so far lived, I visited there again this year, at the beginning of the year when it was still possible. So that was great to visit after a couple of months. But as I said, it's changing a lot. It's evolving. People are moving, or they get married or get different jobs. So it's amazing to be a little bit part of it. But on the other hand, I cannot imagine to live fully just in German. So as those German eco-villages were speaking only German, and it's like my third language, which for like being able to really communicate well, I would need to work much more on my German. But I can imagine, for example, that this Czech eco-village could be on the similar level like Sieben Linden in 20, 30 years. So why not? Who knows? I am definitely going to support them and share all my knowledge I have. So I could live in some other eco-villages for sure. I can imagine that. Yes.
That's interesting. Why in 20 years do you think the Czech village will be on the same level?
Well, to build those buildings, of course, takes some time.
Okay.
The community can get much closer together, but there is no building right now. So to have 80 hectares and to have 15 buildings, it's not like you can do 2 buildings per year, maybe later, but not now. So that's why I said so long. But hopefully, of course, they manage sooner. Let's hold the fingers crossed.
And for this, I have another question. So imagine that there are, I don't know, 4 or 5 families who live close together in some city or village or whatever. Could they like use the principles? Yes. And be close to the principle of the eco-village while they don't have their own eco-village, but they can behave like in similar way? Is it possible to find somewhere the principles and some notes or some rules or some like help how to do it?
Online. I am not sure if there are like some example like networks like this global eco-village network, but I am sure there are I don't know, initiatives like this, what you just mentioned, just group of families, so, I don't know, maybe shopping together and then using much less plastic containers, or sharing together the price for buying, I don't know, fair trade, which is usually more expensive, but if you buy bigger amount, then it's cheaper, and you use less plastic trash or other trash, and less transport is needed. So all those aspects can be used, or they can share cars together, or they can have one garage together where they can be repairing, or I don't know, bicycles and cars and whatever they need to, but they can own it together because you don't need these things every day. So why not to share it with somebody? Yeah.
Okay.
Those things exist, and I think eco-villages could be a good point to get the good example from where to like inspire.
Okay, I think the last question I can answer because Eliška, Jarmika is asking if there is if eco-villages are only for young people or there are more generations. You presented in the presentation that normally there are living more generations, like all the range of people. So maybe Jarmika was not here on the first minutes. And last question.
I could add like 1-2 sentences to that question.
Yeah, let's go.
Of of course, like younger people, let's say, who are in their early 20s, they are usually going out to travel or study or start their job out of the world. So those are usually missing in the eco villages, except all the others. They are young kids, young families, and other like mid-age people and like older people. They are all there, but the early 20s people, they are missing. So usually they are subsiding this age generation, which they are inviting like volunteers, international volunteers or national volunteers in this age group. So then I would say no age group is usually missing, or they are not focusing on some, all the age group are.
Got it. So thank you, Eliška. Thank you all who ask any question. We have to finish now. So thank you very much for your time, for your initiative, and hopefully we will see each other again sometime.